Hello everyone, this is Evan Abrams for Adobe Video and Motion, back with another look at how we can leverage media replacement in motion graphics templates. I recently had the opportunity to work with some big names on YouTube to create some templates that can bring a little bit more production value to their work while saving them some time in production. I hope this look behind the process can help inspire you to incorporate motion graphics templates and media replacement in your projects. These templates here are for Jarvis Johnson, a very funny and insightful creator who shows a little current events, a little observational comedy. His content is always changing with what's in the news cycle, so any templates we created for him needed to have the flexibility to seem fresh every time. This whole package included a branded intro for highlighting sponsored logos, some news graphics, and a news marquee, but the centerpiece that I want to show off here is the full screen media callout. Often on the show, he needs to reference a specific image, a specific tweet, a screen capture of a conversation. With that as a starting point, here's where we ended up. One template that we can drop in any image into the space, pick from 5 styles of frame over the image or none, and pick from 5 styles of background or none, and have some control over a few granular details like text element in here or the colors in some cases. And most critically, we needed to take away that need to crop things ahead of time. In Premiere, when a user drags new media to the media replacement area, they can scale it up and bump it around as much as they like. We can use that in combination with width and height control over the frame crop to give total control over any media that comes in. Every other element of these frame styles are going to be responsive to that crop size, so we can have these charmingly retro frames or more contemporary ones, I suppose, and it'll look good no matter what is coming in. So let's dip into After Effects and I'll show you how this kind of thing gets set up. First off, let's look at the top level of this template. This comp here contains basically 5 versions of the frames that we might select to look at, and 5 versions of the background we might look at. And we're leveraging a few controllers in this comp as well that all the other comps nested in here are going to reference. For example, we have this 2-part point control that gives us a handy 2-part property that a user can quickly interpret as width and height. But this can then be referenced by every other comp that needs to know how big the window or crop space needs to be. And in keeping with this theme of putting common things in here at the top level of the comp, we have this text layer that will hold whatever text value we want to pass down to the various looks. We also have these color controls. I wanted to keep these kind of controls simple so that there are only 2 color choices available and they will drive any other color throughout the template. We have some gradients out here, we have some topographical lines, we have a solid background option. All of those will just look at these to keep it simple. Reducing the number of controls, the number of choices increases the speed as we reduce the mental load on an operator. Another key control out here are these drop down controls. These are how we toggle which of the backgrounds and which of the image frames we're seeing. The expressions that drive these are actually pretty rudimentary. Each option in the menu has a numeric value, so 1 for the first, 2 for the second, and so on. So by pointing this expression at that value, we can say if the value is 1, then the value of the transparency here should be 100, or else it should be 0. There are other ways to work with menu controls as well, and I would really encourage you, if you want to make drop-down menu controls part of your process, that you check out the documentation at the help section on adobe.com. But this if-else expression is one great way to make use of them, especially when toggling through looks. But where is the actual image that's getting replaced? Where have we hidden that? It's inside each of these different looks. So if we drill into, say, this Windows looking frame here, we can see that the picture lives inside this comp here, the aptly named picture holder. This comp is then referenced by each of the frame styles. It lets us have a common place to replace the media that's independent from any transformations that might happen to it, and it's the same comp found in each of the frame comps. That part is critical, so it can be replaced once and propagated to many. Let's have a look at how one of these styles is constructed, because they all follow pretty much the same kind of logic. First, we have our anchor for the whole design, a layer that I've called Image Commander. This layer is just a shape layer with a rectangle that's going to take its height and width from that point controller back in the main comp. That means we now have that data brought here, and it serves as a visual marker of that size. This forms the source from which everything else is going to flow. I've also parented everything in here to a null that lives at the middle center of the comp. This makes all of the positions of every element relative to that that null, meaning 0, 0 on their position would put them in the middle center. So if we take these two ideas, that 0, 0 means the middle, and we can always find the size of that crop for our image, we can dynamically place any layers in relation to that image commander's size. There's also another wrinkle in here to overcome. I wanted this to animate on, like the window is opening up, a classic expanding one way and then the other way. But we can't really keyframe the values here because those need to be dynamically populated. So I need to work around to animate up to that crop size, up to the size that's being dialed in by the end user. This is done with a couple of sliders that will actually hold the keyframes. These sliders are just changing from 0 to 100, but those are then part of this expression that governs the size of a rectangle that is looking at those sliders and remapping the value of 0 to 100 to a change from 0 to whatever size that image commander is telling it. This lets me have the actual values for the size of this shape as it animates that will make it easier to have other layers behave relative to that size change, as opposed to using something like a scale change that would require me to maybe do a bit more math. For example, let's look at this little X button up in the top corner. This element needs to always live in the upper right corner relative to the size of that animating rectangle. By using a little math on the position, we can make sure that it's always living at half of the horizontal size of that image crop that we're pulling in and negative a half of the vertical size, plus or minus some absolute values as well. That means this element will always live up here in the top corner relative to whatever that image crop is, which is going to drive so many of the elements in here. These bars over at the side always live at the side of that cropped rectangle because of the relative logic that we've built into their position. Their size is always determined by the size of that crop rectangle. These dynamic linkages make it all work, and it's not very complex when we break it down, as you can see here. It's just pointing to the specific parts of the rectangle that we want each to be based on. Armed with that knowledge, we can create all kinds of frames with all kinds of relative elements, text that will live up here in the top left, this gray frame that will need a hole in it, it's the same size as the image crop. All of that uses this same logic of simply pulling in that size and then using a little bit of math to massage the value whichever way we need to go. Now, the media that is at the heart of this whole thing lives here in this composition that is using that animating rectangle, the one that references the image commander, as a mat. And inside, we can see that this is just a .png that is the same size as the frame. But critically, we know that this will be replaced, resized, and repositioned, all to serve that crop later on. So there isn't much we actually need to do in here. To give that media replacement control, we simply need to drag this footage up to the Essential Graphics area. You can open up the Essential Graphics window by going to Window, selecting Essential Graphics, and notice that we're always leaving the primary composition as that media full screen composition, the root, that composition where all of the different styles of frame live. Any composition referenced by or nested in that comp can have properties brought to live in this space. But that's enough about these frame comps. Let's have a look at the background options as well as some more media replacement magic out here. The first option is to just have an image back there. That's an easy one. Inside this comp is another one, and that one is filled with the image that we would want to replace. That might seem needlessly nested, but we need to reuse this background image comp elsewhere too. I didn't want Jarvis to have to replace one image for a plain image background and then another one for a tiled image background. I just want him to be able to replace one image and then toggle between the different looks. So here in background tile, we have the same background image comp with the reptile effect and a mask on it. The mask crops down the image into a little square, and then the reptile makes more of it horizontally and vertically. Now, at some point, the idea was floated of giving more control over zooming in and out or offsetting the tiles, but ultimately, those controls were deemed not critical. Giving that kind of access would be just as simple as adding the position or scale of this layer to the controls of the essential properties. And remember, in Premiere, any media that's getting replaced can be resized and repositioned. So there's still quite a lot of granular control already. It seemed a little bit redundant and cluttery to have so many controls over this. The other backgrounds here all hinge on the use of color. These color pickers from this primary composition control these last three backgrounds. The first is just a large rectangular shape layer that's looking at that first primary color control. The second comp here is simply a gradient that's looking at those two color controls. And the third here, it's a procedural effects stack creating these almost topographical lines. It starts with a fractal, which then gets blurred, that then gets posterized or posterized, depending on how you like to say it. But then we find the edges again to thicken that up, and after little levels and a little blur to get the edges just how we like it, the whole thing ends up getting tinted with a tint effect that again references those two colors that are being controlled in the essential graphics. And because all of our color options are referencing the same controls, we're able to simplify the kind of color controls we need to provide to the end user, simplifying the amount of choices they have to make. So in terms of speed, here's how it gets deployed. In Premiere, simply drag it from our Essential Graphics window onto our timeline, pull any image quickly pulled from the web perhaps, drop that into the media replacement zone, dial in the size of a crop we want, dial in the scale of the footage itself, choose a style, choose a couple colors. Maybe we're 6 clicks into this thing, and I think under a minute, and we are done. From a functional perspective, this means Jarvis and his team can spend more time on research, scripting, editing, instead of fussing over formatting graphics. These time savings mean that more resources are going to be put into other areas of the production, or just getting more content out in a week. Any time savings we can provide will always pay dividends. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video has been helpful and inspiring for you to add more motion graphics templates to your work and to make use of media replacement. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications to get all the latest tutorials, tips, tricks, and updates right from Adobe. I'm Evan Abrams. Thank you so much for watching.